Bitcoin dominance, it has been grinding higher for months and months and months right now. We're pressing into levels that we haven't seen since July. And so from here, really, I guess your interest turns to that all-time high figure that we set back in March of $73,000 and a bit of change. Some fear and undoubt being raised over the stablecoin itself is under investigation, some violations for money laundering activity. For those of us that have been in the space for some time, this has been probably one of the signs we want to see to get a bit more bullish, to be honest. Hey guys, welcome to this week's crypto catch-up. Today, you've just got me, Pav. Ted's not available today, unfortunately, and nor is Tommy, but that's all right. The market's debt sleep for everyone, and we're here to make sure you're getting the info you need to be prepared this week for what's to come. Obviously, we've seen some great action across the markets these last couple of weeks, and seem to be waking up, and there's something new to talk about lately. So it's starting to get to that sort of exciting sort of boiling point moment, I think, especially with Bitcoin right now as we're recording, pressing up on 70K US dollars, heading into the monthly close of October. So look, we'll break down, I guess, a couple of things of what I'm seeing furthermore in the market, look at some news that's trending, as well as some top movers. There's pretty interesting trends happening at the moment. So we'll dive into that a little bit later in the show, so stick around for that. But just as a reminder for everyone, we do record these episodes on YouTube, so come check us out, give us a subscribe. Makes it a little bit easier to sort of talk through the charts sometimes, but we do the best for everyone listening along at home on Spotify. Let's dive in. So we've got the latest update on our Bitcoin chart that we've been tracking for some time. We saw a very nice reaction off that September and August monthly highs during last week, which we talked about. It was a real test to see if the bulls were going to show up for the show. Great action, in my opinion. We started to see some lows be swept. And there's monthly high levels we closed up nice and hugged specifically on that September monthly high as well. So seems to show to me that the market is willing to buy up any dip at the moment. And, right now we're pressing into levels that we haven't seen since July. So that July monthly high, bang on 70K, we have tagged it. This is looking at the Coinbase exchange data. And so from here, really, I guess your interest turns to that all-time high figure that we set back in March of $73,000 and a bit of change. So, we talked about Q4 on the podcast specifically being a period that we'd be looking forward to for quite some time. And, a lot of that has got to do with seasonality of data. We even look at things like the Bitcoin halving cycles and, even looking at broader things like election cycles. I know sometimes it seems like a bit of a meme, but, these things, for whatever reason, they do tend to play into one another. And I'll just go back to one of these charts that we shared a couple months ago. This is looking at the Dow Jones Industrial average, which is a bit of an index on the US markets in terms of stocks. And we can see during election years, it usually is that back end of the year that we do inherently move into a trending environment. So we've got the election now at the very start of November. I think it's the first week we get the decision there, and agnostic of the result, be it Trump, be it Kamala. I mean, the sort of jury's out in terms of which one's going to matter the most, but it seems that, Donald Trump does have more crypto-friendly policies and, launching World Liberty Coin with his sons, etc. So, I think that all in all will, blow definitely positive tailwinds for the crypto industry, specifically if Donald Trump does live up to some of his previous mentionings of, establishing a strategic Bitcoin fund for the country, etc., etc. We're not going to dive into that jargon. Just going to show that, obviously we've been tracking this chart for some time. If what we're expecting is a trending market to develop in the coming weeks, I mean, we're seeing some really great early signs heading into November of that sort of forming. So pretty exciting times. And sort of to marry up some of the storyline items that we're talking about, obviously we're talking about Bitcoin moving, making some leaps and bounds. The broader altcoin market, I think, is where usually more people's interest turns, just due to the larger return on investment opportunity. People feel like they missed out on Bitcoin, so they want to try and make up for it in the altcoin market. We can look at charts like the Bitcoin dominance chart to try and work out, okay, at what point is their money flowing out of Bitcoin, maybe towards altcoin markets. We still have yet to see this particular chart pop. So Bitcoin dominance currently sitting at 59.5%. It has been grinding higher for months and months and months right now. So in the past, when we have seen this turnaround, that has been the calling moment for altcoins to really start to see a rotation of capital into a bit more riskier assets away from Bitcoin. So just goes to show that there might still be room for obviously Bitcoin to sort of take lead and really turn the show on to some degree. So we'll wait to see when and if that happens. But for me, I'm waiting for, to be honest, this particular chart to move into the 60s. So 60%. Don't know exactly where it's going to land. But if we move into that area with a bit of velocity, I'll be looking for, when does it start to turn around? That's probably when we're looking for an altcoin cycle to start. And my analysis shows that that should be around the start of December. But time will tell if that does land up to be true or not. In that same vein, this is also a sort of roadmap for the altcoin market cap. So looking at a ticker called Total 3. So that's minusing Bitcoin and Ethereum in terms of total market cap. Been grinding higher again for weeks and weeks now. The takeaway from this for me is that there has been quite a bit of chop, however. So this is a weekly time frame. It's been going up and down, up and down, up and down. And if you look at some of the altcoin charts out there, some of them have been performing quite well, like the likes of PopCat, been nothing but vertical. But some other altcoins, which you might have been in yourself, you're just noticing it's going up and down 20% per day. And this is a perfect representation of that sort of capital just moving in and out of altcoins at the moment, potentially moving back to Bitcoin or back to stablecoins. There really hasn't been a steady up-only trend. Like, let's say, for example, you look at October 2023 here, where it just kept grinding up to the upside. There's still been that chop. So obviously that's affecting sentiment, I think, in the market personally. For a lot of people, it may not be in, I guess, the high performing altcoins, which we'll touch on in a minute. But just goes to show that, yeah, we haven't really hit that trending environment and the market coming into its stride as well. But turning on to some more fundamental pieces, Bitcoin ETFs, there's a lot to talk about here. I think we saw $2.1 billion coming through in terms of net buying last week. We've got a news article here showing that the total Bitcoin held exceeds now $60 billion. There's some huge numbers coming up here. If we look at the top holders in the world, we've got Satoshi as number one with 1.1 million Bitcoin. Binance number two with 100,000. And then you've got the aggregate of the US ETFs combining to be just under 1 million Bitcoin. So very quickly, since January, really, we've seen these ETFs at the end of the day just swoop in, and there is absolutely demand for this product. We're seeing categorically. So Ethereum, a lot more to be desired in terms of performance from the ETF, but I've woken up today, it's Tuesday, and we're seeing some strong, pretty solid numbers, not the biggest, but from Fidelity, a big day from Bitwise, and a big day from ARK as well. So a lot of these products doing quite well, and the low fee Grayscale Bitcoin ETF as well, 21.6 mil. So look, again, anything above this average currently of 110 million, I think potentially is blowing positive sentiment into the market as well. So that's always, promising to see that there is demand. But I noticed there has been some speculation that, look, a lot of this Bitcoin ETF buying a lot of it is, or a good portion of it is from hedge funds in the US. They're not necessarily long Bitcoin as an asset permanently. They're more looking at other ways. So you can come up with hedging strategies where you buy Bitcoin but short it at the same time. Won't get into the details of that. But there is some speculation, obviously, that a lot of this isn't just longing Bitcoin for the long-term exposure. It is just short-term price fluctuations as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, what we're seeing without really having to think about it too hard is that prices going higher. The market's willing to pay higher prices at the moment. So, that's the trend that we want to continue to see, the ETF flows following what the market's doing, in my opinion. So really great stuff. In terms of the macro calendar, this is actually quite a big week in terms of a news week. So a couple of things to call out here. We have employment data coming out of the US. So, since we have, in my opinion, squared away the whole inflation piece, a lot of it comes down to jobs and growth, really. And we've got both those items coming in this week, specifically tomorrow. So tomorrow being Wednesday, the 30th of October, around 10 to 10:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, we'll see those data releases. So could be some volatility coming out of that space after those results, should they, not land within expectations. We also have growth data from the manufacturing industry coming out of China. So obviously pretty important piece of the puzzle as well lately. And then another big one just in terms of stability in foreign exchange markets, which may likely affect liquidity globally, which liquidity also drives the crypto markets. We have the Bank of Japan releasing their the most recent policy rate for interest rates there. Again, people might recall there was that period where there was a bit of instability in the markets when Japan did rise their interest rates for the first time in a few decades. So, Obviously, some fear potentially and doubt there that, if they do raise again, we could see a similar sell-off effect in the market. So yeah, there's just another piece there to square away to give the market a bit of confidence in knowing something it currently doesn't know as well. And then to round off the week, we've just got more employment data coming out of the US as well, with the official, I think, unemployment rate on Friday, so 10:30 p.m. AEST as well. So all in all, very, very action-packed end of the month. And for that reason, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we start to see Bitcoin just slow down. Being a risk-on asset, it could just not falter. I'm not looking to say it's going to crash or anything like that. But, even if Bitcoin does just do a healthy, let's say, retrace back down to, let's say, these previous highs, which is $68,000, that's still a move that might have some ripple effects through altcoin markets, depending on how fast it happens. But look, all in all, looks like it's going to be a great end of the month to Bitcoin. We zoom out, look at the monthly candle. It's looking like it's setting up pretty similar to October 2023, to be honest. It looks almost like a like for like shot. So yeah, very interesting to see what happens there. But next, we'll move on to some top movers. So I'll give this a quick refresh. And yeah, lo and behold, meme coins. That's what we've been talking about for some time now. Might cause some people to be quite upset because I quite potentially understand why meme coins even deserve to pump at the moment. But I mean, at the end of the day, if that's where the money is rotating and we're seeing growth there, sometimes you just have to have a look in those areas and see what's happening. So the big call out, I think, that I've been seeing is Doge. So obviously, the grandfather of all meme coins. Has had probably one of its best months for the year. I think it's up currently, 45%. So last time it saw growth like this was at the very start, during February of 2024. So approaching 16 cents. And even from my perspective, it's something that I've been eyeing off as well. Obviously a lot of people getting in the last cycle towards the market highs. If Dogecoin specifically can start to get over a lot of these 2021 highs, a lot of people who bought Bitcoin, they'll be in profit. So even from a sentimental point of view, I think that's going to have a massive impact on just the general attitude of people coming back to the markets. Yeah, so that's something that I'm eagerly awaiting to see. Do we now start to see just more people reactivating and coming back to crypto now that they're no longer nursing any hangovers from last cycle? So even we've got SHIB here, still quite a ways away from its previous highs in 2021, where it went very much vertical back in the day, 830% in a month. Ludicrous, but there's definitely a lot of people that potentially jumped into the market thinking this would continue. And they've just been, again, just nursing those losses as well. So a big piece of the puzzle, I think, is just a lot of these people from last cycle getting back to break even. That's going to affect the underlying tone towards crypto as well, I think. Other big movers on this chart, we've got SPX, so one of the newer meme coins to do on the rounds at the moment. PopCat, which we've been pointing out for some time now. The Top Cat, as some like to say. So great to see that continue to show strength, heading into new all-time highs in price discovery. And then we've seen infrastructure tokens like Rune and DeFi tokens like Ray. So Ray's a pretty interesting one. So for those that don't know, there's a website called Pumped Up Fund, which basically allows anyone to launch their own meme coin effortlessly without having to, put aside capital to create liquidity pools and essentially reduce the barrier of starting your own meme coin to nothing. It's almost like a marketplace for people to bid to launch new meme coins. So if you've got a great idea for a meme coin, it's your opportunity to potentially shine here and see if the market also likes it. But essentially, it's driven some massive volumes towards Rays or Radium's fees. So Radium being again, just to round that off, it's all on the Solana ecosystem. We're really starting to see the meme coin momentum take off and captivate people. So we're seeing in the yellow lines here, the fees that are generated by the protocol. It's reaching some pretty decent highs now, as the market's starting to heat up a little bit as well, understandably. So this asset got absolutely decimated, being involved with the whole FTX drama as well to some degree. Heavy dilution as well, just from a tokenomics perspective as well, I think. I have to relook into that one as well, but I do remember it didn't look too great at the time. But now with this new use case, we're seeing a lot of fees being generated from these assets that are running through Pumped Up Fund. When they do successfully get enough crowdfunding to launch the meme coin, they're then creating a pair on Radium, which is generating fees for that platform as well. So for anyone that's a Radium holder, well done. The price has gone up something crazy. I think like 40 times since the bottoms. So that's been I guess a pretty good story for investors that have been in that space as well. So good to see there as well. But let's see what else we got on the top movers. And this is looking at the top 100 assets. Sorry. Not really too much else. Mew, which we have been pointing to, wondering if PopCat, sorry, the whole cat meme does transfer across to assets like Mew. There's also When, so that's other ones that we keep an eye on at the moment. We've got Rune there as well, boasting a 20% gain as well for the week. So, but the takeaway here for everyone as well is, as much as we're seeing a few here outperform the market, there's still quite a few lagging and not performing in market. So again, speaking about what we were earlier about, that rotation away from Bitcoin into the broader altcoin market, that still seems to be not happening. And this is a great example where it's really just the standouts in the market that are really showing some great signs of strength. So again, strength is what you want to look for. Build your own watch lists. It's generally how I go about it. So, again, I've got Solana here up 6% as well, nice and modestly. And Jupiter, again, being the supporting asset. Again, the general theme tends to be Solana and across all these top movers at the moment. But in other news, we have also seen some classic Tether FUD. So some fear and undoubt being raised over, that the stablecoin itself is under investigation and there's, some violations for money laundering activities, et cetera, et cetera. For those of us that have been in the space for some time, this has been probably one of the signs we want to see to get a bit more bullish, to be honest. I'd love to know if there's a chart out there that actually has all the Tether FUD news articles plotted on a chart of Bitcoin. Anecdotally, I have done it manually in the past, and it's basically just before it has had a big move. So not saying that's going to happen again, but creating a bit of fear and undoubt with Tether, the largest stablecoin issuer, it's nothing new. And to be honest, if there's nothing that's come undone with them these last decade or so, I don't know what's going to change now. That could be any different. They are stating that they're working with entities such as Hamas and Russian arms dealers. But yeah, I think we've got a quote here from Paolo, the Tether CEO, basically saying that we would know if we are being investigated. And the article that he's referring to by the Wall Street Journal falsely claims that they are. So as much as this Tether news story could be just pure speculation and just trying to create that fear piece, some unsubstantiated claims by the Wall Street Journal, it's just something we'll probably still want to keep an eye on, and we'll just see how it plays out in the coming days. That's it from us today on the show. That's a wrap. Again, we'll have the whole crew back on deck next week to talk all things crypto. Hopefully, this whole week and last week has been a sign of what's to come. We've seen ETF flow has been absolutely amazing. Price seems to want to go higher. We've had, consecutive days of gains and consecutive weeks. So very excited to see what next week has to bring. So thanks very much for tuning in today, guys, and catch you next week.